and we're going to recap stuff that happened at Google I/O. Google I/O, if you don't know, is the developers conference. So Apple just had theirs. I think Apple was just called, what, the developers conference?
Worldwide Developers Conference, yeah.
Yes, WWDC. And then Google has Google I/O, and Microsoft has some probably boring name called Microsoft Conference. That's what they do. And so there's always some exciting stuff that comes out of all of these conferences, but specifically Google, specifically Apple. So it happened on Wednesday and Thursday. So Bruce and I were going to give you some recaps and then talk about how there's some implications to higher education.
Absolutely.
Yes. So were you able to watch any of the keynotes live, Bruce?
I did a little bit. I had planned on checking it out again, but never got around to it. So I was in and out most of the day. It was long. I thought I had missed most of it and saw people still. Joe Janice was talking about it on Twitter. I'm like, is this still going on? But was able to come in for most of it.
I thought that during the Apple one, too, because the Apple one talked about their new updates of their product lines originally, and then all of a sudden, like an hour goes by, I'm like, is this still happening? I actually didn't, I went to lunch I was at lunch when the Google I/O started, so I missed most of that first day, and I literally started when he was talking to the guys up in the Zeppelin.
That's exactly the same time I started as well.
Which I kept saying a plane. I didn't realize later a plane wasn't involved. It was just a Zeppelin.
Yeah, which makes some sense for planning. But yeah, and I guess probably that's a factor of it's a developer's audience as well, so they need to hit some things that consumers really probably don't care about. Some stats around, how many apps, what we're doing in the store, the API of things. But it just seemed super long. And for me, on a purely show standpoint, you definitely get used to the old Steve Jobs way. Like, he practices, and he's an amazing presenter. Like, Sergey Brin just doesn't have that panache that Steve does. So there are those moments that I kind of felt bad.
The only one who has that really for Google, I would say, is Vic Indotra. I didn't realize I was saying Vic. And I think he was with mobile Android. I think now he's working more with the Google Plus team. But he's the only one that really kind of has that polished. Vic Gundotra, let's look at it real fast. Like kind of that polishedness in his presentation, but he's still kind of a nerd, so he knows the technical things about it, and so he can kind of play to both sides, and so. So let's talk over some of the highlights. By the way, day 2 is way more nerdy than I can even comprehend. I watched about 30 minutes of it, and I realized that I'm only getting half of this whole back-end server, this Linux, and why it's so awesome, and so I just kind of stayed away from that. So day 1, a couple big announcements is they have the, I guess, kind of first Google-branded tablet device.
Mm-hmm. The with Nexus 7.
Is their partner. Their new operating system called Jelly Bean, and I believe that launches on that device. So
correct.
It's pretty new. Which I didn't see any of the demo about Jelly Beans. I'm not sure what's amazing about that or not. I heard ice cream sandwich is pretty amazing. So this is a pretty quick iteration of that.
It is, and I was reading this morning that fandroids was a term I had not heard before, but the Android fanboy, fandroid, nice. That they're saying this is amazing. A lot of commentators are saying, it's good. It's the arms race between Apple and Google on the operating system. But for the most part, there's some pretty neat things. I think it's Google Now or Android Now, which seems pretty cool. It's the search Siri type integration, which they've had for a while. But there's some really neat stuff around that where I think Siri right now is very responsive and reactionary. You need to ask. For Google, it's very predictive. And what they talk about is if you put in your flight information, you have these cards that it's going to search from. And you'll have your flight information. You go to the gym every day at 2 o'clock. It will tell you, hey, look, it takes you a half an hour with the current traffic to get to the airport for your 3 o'clock flight, but your flight's been delayed 4.5 hours. You can get your scheduled gym workout in. So it's kind of the integration of calendar and events and everything else you do, which could be pretty amazing. And that predictive, which some people might say is too much of a creep, I think there's some pretty neat things that could happen with that.
Now, do you personally use Siri?
I don't. I have an iPhone 4.
Okay.
I did not get the 4S.
Because I've heard mixed reviews about Siri. I've heard that it like almost never works. It takes a ton of server capabilities, and it just isn't. It doesn't like push it out like it should, and it only works like half the time. I don't know what's true and what's not true on there.
Yeah, I know a couple people that use it that love it, but like the original app, it's still that delay of I need to ask you something. I need to push this. So there are some things that works really well. It'll be interesting in iOS 6 with the improvements over it and the reintroduction of features that they stripped out when they bought it. But this looks interesting, and the improved voice to text with Jelly Bean is going to be pretty huge. And
which I use voice to text some. It has always worked pretty decent. So I want to see what the improvements are, because if it's improved, it will be really good.
They Project Butter is Google's names fascinate me. All of these suites around their operating system, and then Project Butter, but it's all about frame rate. They bumped up the frame rate of the phone to 60 frames per second, so it's it's buttery smooth, they say.
Their names are complete opposite of Microsoft names. Like they're like outlandish names, and Microsoft is like Project 4. Next.
Yeah. They have a new phone. Yeah. It's going to be called Microsoft Phone.
Yeah.
So camera app got a little bit of an update. More accessibility, which I think Apple and iOS 6 did some amazing things on that end. The new maps are definitely cool. Search is definitely different, but there's nothing revolutionary in Jelly Bean, especially with iOS 6. They're pretty even, and I think, and it's good. They're just going to keep bumping each other up.
I mean, Ice Cream Sandwich was the last big reiteration of operating system, and it was a pretty significant upgrade. So it would be hard for it to be that significant going into Jelly Bean. So, but the device, the Nexus 7, it looks to be pretty awesome.
It does.
And this is it's smaller than an iPad, right? Different form factor.
Yeah, so it's size of the Android Fire, I believe, is the closest size. 7-inch. Key thing, the price point, $199.
Yeah, that's impressive. That is a huge price point. I mean, because the cheapest iPad's $500, right?
Correct, and the Microsoft Surface at what, $599? Is that right?
Yeah, I don't know if that's confirmed. That may have been a rumor.
It's rumored, yeah.
It was, the rumor's $599, and you don't know. It comes with the keyboard automatically, and you don't know if it has Office on it. We don't know a whole lot about it. It was I guess now we know why they did that announcement without saying what the price was.
Mm-hmm.
So it's almost like they rushed it, like they knew this was coming from Google, and they wanted to kind of get out in front of that. And So that's really interesting. So this is in the Kindle Fire competition range as far as price. Seems to probably have a lot more functionality than the Fire. So
yeah, functionality. It sounds like overall, what I've been reading is it's pretty amazing. The only downside, they say, is on content. With Amazon Fire, your content is brilliant. That's Amazon's moneymaker and why they can drop the price on that. But the only thing you really can't get throughout third-party apps is Amazon, the video streaming service. But is that big of a deal? I don't think it really is for people, but getting hands-on with some of these things and really realizing we haven't seen a true competitor for the iPad at all, and not this is a direct competitor, but how many, the Samsung tablet, all these tablets that just don't have, they probably sell decently, but you don't hear people talking about them. Is this that, yeah, I'm going to get this. This is going to be something I really want.
Yeah, I think this is the first one where people are probably going to really be excited to really go and get. I thought the Kindle Fire actually had pretty good traction, but when you hear the numbers, it's really not. Like I know several people who have Kindle Fires, but I thought that would be closer. But there's other things that have been purchased before then. Also, earlier that day, it was announced and been completely lost in the traffic. There has been there was an injunction that was upheld or filed against Apple, against Samsung, to not release or not sell their new Galaxy Tab or something like that. And I completely forgot about it till now. It's a total BS ruling. It's not going to help innovation at all. And I don't know what it was about it, but it's one of those that Apple has been saying that Samsung is ripping them off. And they probably are, as does Apple rip off other people. That's what happens. And so there was an injunction filed against them, and then haven't heard anything about it recently. Kind of forgot about it till right now. So there's apparently another decent tablet out there that we haven't seen yet. So this would be huge. I mean, this is the first tablet that's in a price point where I would consider purchasing one. I mean, when I had an iPad, it was office issue. That's why I had it. I don't feel I would still use it enough to invest in it, but I would consider it closer to the $200 mark. Or I consider it, as my wife could potentially use that more than her laptop. Having a kid and being as mobile as she is, as a stay-at-home mom, or taking the kid out and all that kind of stuff, like she would probably be really better for her than a laptop would be.
Yeah, there's pretty neat features about it. The resolution compared to the Fire is a lot better, that's been a knock on the Fire, is the screen just isn't that great. Battery life is really good. The weird thing about this, and I haven't heard why, but there is no rear-facing camera on the Nexus 7. So, like, the iPad came out with a rear-facing camera first, and then added the front for FaceTime and everything else, but there is no rear-facing camera. And if you try to install Instagram on it through the Google Play Store, you'll get an error, actually, that it's not supported at all. So that seems to be a strange decision made, and I haven't heard why they did make that decision.
Yeah, maybe because they don't want people to take stupid photos holding up the gigantic pad in public. Maybe they're doing us all a favor by not putting that on there. However, a coworker has one, and we did some commencement because it was so much easier to do that and upload directly to Facebook than anything else. That is weird. I hadn't even thought about that until now. Yeah, you look at the back of it. This is a kind of rubberized material, and there's no camera there.
Yeah, a little strange, but it's good. I mean, I'd love to play around with it and see what it can do.
Donald White, Don B. White on Twitter, said something about how long it'll take for phones to get Jelly Bean. It'll lose much of its buzz. That's a good question, and my phone, I got all the updates up until Ice Cream Sandwich, so I'm 2 operating systems behind. There's always been talk of defragmentation amongst Android. That's getting worked out better. The Samsung Galaxy S3, which some people say is by far the best phone in the market. That's, of course, arguably. I've never seen one, so I don't know. They said that is already ready for the upgrade. Like they knew that was coming, so that is prepared for the upgrade. And so Don says he's still in Froyo. I think I'm one beyond that. I forgot what was beyond that. Gingerbread, I think, was beyond Froyo. So, which wasn't a huge upgrade, not like it is from that Ice Cream Sandwich. So, it'll be interesting to see when that starts to get rolled out now, because all these other companies put their overlays on top of it, TouchWiz and HTC Sense, all that kind of stuff, and they got to reprogram all of that. So.
Yeah, and where are we going to be at? And they're saying mid-July for kind of the 3 big phones: Galaxy Nexus, Nexus S, and then the Motorola Zoom, but Zoom with a Z or with a X instead of a Z. Tech names, you gotta love it.
I know.
But we're talking mid-July for the top-of-the-line phones. So even if we're 2 months out, and that's a long time in the tech world. And that's
there's actually a website that it's a game where you try to decide if it's an Android phone name or a condom name, and sometimes it's both. And so Leo Laporte played that on one of his This Week in Tech podcasts. It was amazing how many were both.
That doesn't surprise me. It's kind of sad. The other, interesting, ready to go tech doesn't have too much. At least I don't know if it has too much higher ed potential. Is the Nexus Q, the set-top box?
That was interesting.
Sharing. I don't quite understand it. I mean, everybody's going to this media center, and people have been talking about this forever.
And it seemed wait, hold on. I have a good size comparison, I think.
This is why I love Google Hangouts.
Yes. So I think so this is my rubber band ball, which I've had for since I started in higher ed, really, my first year. So it appears to be about this size. It's this little round circle thing that has some plugins in the back. And I didn't get what it was at first. I thought it was more like a Sonos player. When I saw it, but it hooks up to your TV, and it streams your media through the Android Play Store and Android Music and that kind of stuff. So it was kind of cheap, right? $200.
$299.
Oh, maybe that's not as cheap as I thought it was.
And when I raised my eyebrows about that, I'm like, oh, yeah. If they're going for this all-in-one center, which they definitely are, because there are, somebody called it a black octopus is what it looks like, because the cables plug into the back. But you can also, there are speakers that come off of it, and you can do subwoofers, so their tagline for it is the first social streaming media player. But immediately, people made the connections between Apple TV, $99. Right. And it's not what it is. It is a little bit more like Sonos. It's kind of bridging all of these things, but when people start making that connection to the Roku boxes and the Apple TV, and those are all TV-centered, but those are $99. Yeah. So $299.
Roku's $50.
Yeah, you better knock my socks off for $299. And it might be how great is that? But this is the thing about Apple and about Google, and it's the closed architecture of if I want to have my phone interact with my TV, I need to be all on Apple. And if I want to use the Nexus Q with my phone, I need to be running at least Android 2.3, so Gingerbread or higher. Yeah. So what I understand why that is, it's just, because I am so Apple-centered, I probably won't be able to play around with this.
Do you have an Apple TV?
I don't. I have a Roku.
Roku's clearly the better of the boxes.
Absolutely. You miss out on the Apple Store, iTunes. I don't really care. I'm good. So, and I can live through AirPlay. I can AirPlay things, or not through AirPlay. You can with Apple TV, but I can. I have an HDMI cable that I can just plug in. It's a hassle, but no big deal.
Also, the first day they announced there was an update. They announced it's kind of a little mini API with Google Plus, which I don't think it's going to do much. They're really resisting. I'm really glad that they're not doing this. People want to be able to update their Google Plus account from TweetDeck or Seismic or whatever application they use, or Hootsuite, and I don't want that because people are just going to be throwing their crap out there. No intention of actually being in the community or chatting. And sometimes I do both. Sometimes I will put the same message on both locations because I plan to actually engage with people on both locations. But they did that with Google Buzz when that came out, and no one actually went to Buzz to use it. People just fed in their stuff from Twitter, and it was never used. And so I'm glad they're resisting that, but they are starting to have some sense of kind of opening that up a little bit. So they're doing that. Plus, they added events. And
this is the one piece besides Google Glass, which is still concept-y at this point. And not consumer ready, but Google Plus Events it's a knockout punch. It is absolutely amazing. So the big difference between your Facebook events have not changed in years, and in fact, there's probably been some things that have gotten worse. But the invites for the events are amazing. I think you can theme them. The large banner photo, you can do a lot more with the invite itself, but I think the key thing is integration into Google Calendar, which there's a bug, which they're saying they're going to fix. It used to be like, if I invite you to an event, even if you don't accept, it shows up on your calendar. But they're fixing that, so that's good. But the big thing for me, and I think where it has an amazing higher ed and student affairs application, is party mode for events. So the idea is, if you have the Google Plus app, and the updated one is only on Android, but if you had it on the iPhone, you have this event, and if you're going to that event, you can take photos and upload them in real time to populate this page. So it's like the app Color used to be, but wasn't really that great.
Whatever happened to Color?
It just, I don't know if somebody bought it or it has just died.
I remember they raised like $75 million. Everyone freaked out about the privacy issues, and we never heard of it again.
Yeah, I have no idea. That is a great question.
Yeah, so you can let anyone at the event upload photos. So you're gathering all these perspectives and photos from one location. And I got to say, it's not just like those events, like this podcast. I was testing it out. I made an event for here. You can have on-air hangouts as an event, and share them that way as well. So
it's.
I'll take a photo of it so I can share it later.
It's, I think, an amazing opportunity for, if you have, our big kickoff here at the University of Idaho is Palooza Fest, Saturday before school starts. Let's assume that people get Google Plus and they're doing this, but you have these big welcome events or commencement that it's automatically populated as time goes on. And you probably want somebody to monitor that, pull down anything that might be inappropriate. But you have these opportunities, I think, to gather real time. Conferences, I mean, imagine like a large or even a small conference that has this, and there's photos of different experiences throughout the conference, and it's not just official conference people and photographers that are taking it. There's some, I think, really cool opportunities.
Yeah, I think commencement, having one for commencement would be pretty cool. I mean, there's a lot of really cool opportunities for this. And you can invite people to an event that aren't on Google Plus or aren't in circles. So you can just put an email address in there for that.
And the other cool thing, too, is you then can share a link after the event. So people can upload photos that they maybe took with a regular digital camera or an iPhone without, and they can upload then into that album extremely easy. I mean, this is where like events and social events should be. And if I'm at Facebook, I'm kind of kicking myself a little bit going, crap.
Yeah.
And so soon, don't be surprised that in 3 to 6 months, Facebook is like, hey, guess what we're doing? We gave you editing of your status updates. We now have this great new feature.
Because Facebook had such a head start on that and just never upgraded it because it had no competition in that.
Mm-hmm. So hopefully this drives innovation a little bit. Google had.
This is the problem. This is the only problem I see with this. I think Google Plus is a far better developed and engineered and designed network than anything else. I think it's a better user interface than Facebook, better than Twitter, all of that. The one problem is it doesn't have the traffic. I mean, the interaction I have on Google Plus is pretty cool. Like I had a conversation with Jeremiah Owing recently on Google Plus, which I'm not going to have on these other platforms. And so Mike Elgin is really cool to talk with on Google Plus that I'm not going to talk to on other platforms. So the people that are there are there. Like they're not. It's not like ghostly, but students are not adopting it like you saw them adopt Facebook 3 and 4 years ago or 5 years ago even. And so it's slower in that regard. And so it's good that you can invite people who aren't on there. It would be better if they were on there, and you could just invite a circle, invite a community that way.
And we've seen, having conversations with colleagues around here, Google Plus is it's Google with a plus after it. There's no concept. And then we've had conversations about how do we engage people with that. And we're not even talking students, just other colleagues. And it seems the entree for people is Hangouts. Like, you explain Hangouts to people, and they're like, oh, really? Like, why do I need to, like, go to the fancy, interconnected education technology building to get that live webcam set up? You got it right here. So that definitely helps, but past that, it's extremely slow.
And Skype seems like it's so clunky now compared to Hangouts. Like, you got to open a new application. You got to, it's not, but it seems like it because Hangouts are so simple to use. I can record this, we can stream it, we can embed it into a website and immediately have it on. I think one thing, though, that Google needs to do to make me really happy with that is for me to be able to connect my Brig Drink account to YouTube and our Student Life account to our Student Life YouTube account so we can hang out and do an event from and hang out there without using my personal YouTube account. So that's the biggest tricky area in that, I think, but it's, we're close. It's getting close. I'm sure they're going to do it. It's just, it's getting closer.
Absolutely. And I think day by day, just look at when Hangouts started, the features you had the Hangout and the chat. Yeah. That was about it. And now with Screen Share, these wonderful lower thirds down here.
Yeah.
It's kind of fun. The Google effects are kind of neat, but between Screen Share and Google Docs, the ability for if you and I are going to present at a conference together, we could be in a Google Doc together, but I can have our window and our Hangout up here, and we can be working on that doc and having a conversation about it and putting together with screen share a keynote as well. So just work and collaboration is amazing.
Yeah, I'm in a doc tour program, and I'm the only one in San Antonio. People are all over Texas, and I've used that a lot already for that. So it's huge. So I think there's one more thing that's huge for higher ed, because so many campuses are Google Apps campuses. Now the ability to edit Google Docs offline, which is new. It was announced yesterday, a little under the radar. If you go to the Google Docs, we'll put it on we'll make show notes later, but if you go to the Google Docs blog page, if you're listening to this now, if you go to the blog page, and you can get that and see it there.
And one of those functionalities that I think people have been clamoring for a while, which that might have a longer lasting effect than a lot of these announcements, to be honest, at least for us on our end.
Yeah, I mean, when you think about the announcements, one announcement was the lack of them talking about it was key. No talk of Google TV.
None, which
2 years ago when they announced Google TV, like it was a big deal, you know. And when they talked about Google Wave, what was it, 5 years ago probably?
Mm-hmm.
Like that was a big. Everyone watched that demonstration on YouTube later because no one knew what Google I/O was until that Google Wave thing came out. Like that was a big deal. So you see these things on here. Google Glasses may never be a thing. Like they may have had this great product demonstration. We may never see them in market because you never know what happens between now and then.
Yeah, Google, the Glass. Like I'm riding the wave of excitement over it. At first, I'm like, yeah, okay, I get it. And then it's like, oh, wow, think of the things you could use it for. And then, okay, developers can buy it that are at I/O for $1,500 and get it at the beginning of next year, which is a long time.
Yeah.
So we're looking at least 2.5 years before it hit market, and not knowing, because they've said they don't want to make it cheap and really cheap materials. So what does that mean? Is this something that's going to be a $800 item, and how are you going to use it? But in talking about it, and we haven't seen it, and maybe you've seen this, Jeff. I've not seen what the heads-up display looks like. Have you?
No, that's the thing. Like that was. I mean, they had that initial little commercial with the guy that goes about ukulele or whatever. That little. But I mean, that was all edited in later. That wasn't like a real interface. And the whole thing, and if you didn't see it, I thought it was amazing. Bruce thought it was over the top. They had people jump out of a Zeppelin. So they jumped out of a blimp wearing Google goggles. Oh, sorry, glasses. Goggles is a completely different thing. Wearing Google glasses in a live hangout. And you see them going towards the Earth. They land on top of the Moscone Center. Then some biker guys jump across the building. For whatever reason, there's a little lip in the thing. And some guy repels down, gets another biker who rides this thing to the stage. I'm like, that's the best product demo ever. And Bruce thought it was like over the top. I'm like, they jumped out of a blimp.
I thought it was
jumps out of a blimp, I think wins in my opinion.
It did break the internet, I think. After
like I say, from a technology standpoint, that was pretty amazing. They never lost a connection.
No.
A clear picture the whole time. But one thing we didn't see, we never saw a user interface. We never saw any conceptual thing about it.
And I want to hear, I understand you can't, like, because it's this little piece over your eye, you can't, like, show that. But I'm sure you can create some mock-ups of, like, this is what it looks like in here.
Yeah.
Because I think, like, it has some capability. In a conversation with a colleague of mine here, Christina, today, I was getting in the ideation of, like, what could this be used for? And if you had, like, you couldn't give them out to students, but if your university, your marketing and communications department had, like, let's say 5 of them. So during commencement, you have and I think they need to get smaller. But if you had the commencement speaker wear them during, if you had a handful of graduates and a parent, and there was on the website a live hangout where all of these different experiences were all going on at the same time, and you could kind of see point of view, we've seen change with the GoPro and the Contour,
right.
but these ideas of what could this mean for live interactions of things we do, and it's showy and fun, but I think it's cool. It's got some, but again, concept car. We might never see these at all.
Yeah, it's. I mean, to even think of the original product demo video, which is just very well edited video, and it shows the guy who's going to the subway, and before he walks down the stairs, it said the subway's out, and it gives an alternate walking map, which ended up being like $5. And so to think if a student had them, and it's how do I get to this building, and it gives you a map directions how to get there, or I mean that's pretty awesome to think of the possibilities. And we need to think about these possibilities because we need to have a reason for our campus to buy us a pair. Because
absolutely.
If it's $100, it doesn't matter how much I want it. Realistically, I'm not getting those.
No, and right now they're awkward. They talked about keeping yourself in the moment of your experiences and really focused a lot of the demo and the talk about families. It was really about being there in your child's life in the moment instead of pulling out your phone to take a picture. It's on there, and they showed pictures of an infant with, you could tell it was a woman or a long-haired man with kind of red hair cascading down. Cool, neat, but we were joking earlier, if you saw somebody walking around with those, or you were at, we had a staff retreat yesterday, if I'm wearing those at the staff retreat, people be like, you need to take those off. It's enough, really, is this invasive? Does this move into a place where it's okay, what are we really doing here?
Yeah, I gotta say, Bluetooth earpiece guy annoys me to death. So I don't know what Google guy browsing the internet wearing the glasses is gonna do. But
what are you looking at, and what are you taking a picture of right now? Or, and on the other hand, it could be amazing and cool and great.
But I guess that could be the cool thing is you're just going about your day, and when you see it, it just happens. You don't have to fumble, and not to get in your phone in your pocket's a big deal, but still, you don't have to be that cumbersome. You can just say, take a photo, share it with my circles.
And I think that I'm getting afraid of being too connected at times. I'm starting to try to put my phone away more. But if you were one of those people that I'm let's say they're $500, you get a pair, ding, I have a new email right now.
Yeah.
I think you're going to feel the need that you're going to want to check that at that point.
Yeah, the level of distraction can be amazing. I mean, you can't. Let's go and pass legislation. Cannot wear these and drive a car. You have to have a separate pair of glasses for that.
Yeah. New anti-Google Glass driving laws.
Dawn's on fire. Says keeping you in the moment. It says then you're still in the moment you walk into a pole. Wearing Google glasses into the bathroom could be an awkward situation. So, there's some great hack videos about the glasses. It says text message from this, and it's oh, not this guy again, and it sends a text message back to him saying oh, not this guy again. So there's been some great parody videos of the Google glasses video, but I mean I'm so excited to see what they can do. It's all a concept at this point, and they got some stuff working. Obviously, they got some demos going, but no mention of an interface on there. But it could be pretty big if they pull this off.
And no conversation about battery life, and we're not at that point yet. And I think the idea, it's an interesting move to publicly put these in the hands of developers, to say, play with it. Help us make this what it could be. So I like that idea. There's some people are saying, like, this is old school Google. These are the people that we fell in love with, that are innovating, that the Google X Labs, that they're bringing out products that people are exciting, that are innovative, that we haven't seen from Google in a while. I mean, Google Plus, it has some great things about it, but are we blown?
Sergey Brin taking over has done good things.
It has. And does that push Facebook to change a little bit? Does that push Apple to change a little bit? I think it does. And I think I've mentioned on this podcast before that we're not innovating as much as we used to as a society. And our younger entrepreneurs and innovators aren't creating new products, but they're creating ways to mine data better, or creating products to mine data.
Yeah.
So if we maybe are on the precipice of a new tech renaissance with people pushing, and I think we are in a way, if you look at Kickstarter and some of the products that people are coming up with, I think it's got some opportunity.
Yeah. Are we missing anything from Google I/O?
No. Train and Paul Oakenfold played at the day one after party. There's pictures of that from their party invite.
They did show on the second day. They went back and they showed how they pulled off the Google glasses out of the airplane thing. It was pretty cool to see the kind of behind the scenes of it when they went and showed it. But it was still pretty cool. Pretty cool thing. Imagine working in a place where you have so much money. It can be like, let's just jump out of a blimp. Let's just do that. How much does it cost? Doesn't matter. We don't have to get a deal. We're not tax deductible. They can just go do it. So that must be pretty cool. All right, everyone. So we'll be back. I don't know when we'll be back because there's orientation dates and there's classes and what have you. But
we'll figure something out.
We'll be back sometime soon to talk about stuff. So until then, everyone, have a great weekend.
Happy 4th of July week for our American watcher/listeners.
Yes. And happy 4th of July for the Canadians, even though it's just a Wednesday for you.
Excellent. Happy Canada Day.
Have a great weekend.